All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the session. I just 1 minute ago I started thinking about the questions I really wanted to ask. So we'll start. Introduce yourself and the name of your empire, Chrishaun. Get the second mic live.
He was like, forget about it. Use the one that works. Hello, all. Oh, everyone's dead and tired like me. Good, I'm in good company. My name is Chrishaun Keller-Hanna. I'm the story mother of the Shaman States of America universe, and my empire name is the CKH Group, where we do a lot of things in the sole purpose of make me rich and anonymous. Keep it close. Keep it close to my mouth? That's a different panel.
Is this one live?
You take it, James.
Hi, everybody. It's tough. It's tough. I'm James Hunter. I am here because of a series of poor life decisions which have somehow worked out for my benefit. I started writing in 2015, and now my wife and I run a publishing company called Shadow Alley Press. Jeanette, she's actually the one she should probably be up here since she does most of the business stuff. But we've been doing it for about 5 years. We have 10 authors, multi six-figure business, and we're really happy to be here and hoping to share some good stuff. Woo!
My name is Michael Anderle. I'm the CEO of LMBPN, and to some degree, I've created a series that causes you, or a thing that causes you to come here. But anyway, we have approximately, God, I've lost count, 50 or 60 authors and as many series or more. We have 600 and some odd books now, and multiple universes, and constantly moving forward, trying to push the envelope and make TradPub look over their shoulder and go, what the hell? So, but really looking forward to speaking on this August panel, and I will now pass it over to the man.
Yeah, sitting next to Michael Anderle, and he's like, you're the man. No. I'm Chris Kennedy, former naval aviator, elementary school principal, somehow found my way into being an author and was doing it well enough that other people said, hey, how about picking me up and helping me out? And I pretty much don't know how to say no when somebody phrases it that way. So I did, and I now run Chris Kennedy Publishing. We've got about 15 authors, more or less full-time, all to us, and about four universes now, including a little one called the Four Horsemen universe, which has 45 books as of tomorrow.
I've just decided we're going to create one called the Five Horsemen because it's one better than four.
Jealous. I like it when Michael Anderle is jealous of me.
Never happened before. But... All of you started as authors first. That's the panel, Author to Empire. What was your attitude change that took you from being an author to being the business empire magnate?
The fact that I really sucked at being, sorry, now you too? The fact that I realized I was not going to be some huge author magnate. I realized that I didn't have the wherewithal to have 42,000 writers in 18 different universes. I wanted one universe. I wanted the folks who I loved working with and loved working with what I was doing to do that. I loved being able to go out there and hand sell books and talk to my fans. And once I narrowed in on that and making it, that's the focus, very narrow and very small, that's when the money came in. And that's when we were able to branch out and do other things like the audio festival that we're doing. We're actually doing an audio play of one of the Shaman States stories. When we were able to start optioning for a small web series, when we were able to make soundtracks and movies, when we was able to create enamel pins and swag. When we narrowed the focus and concentrated on the one thing that we love doing, that's when things picked up for me.
I think for Jeanette and we never really thought that we were going to be publishing people or a publisher at all. Again, a series of poor life choices just snowballed one after the other until we ended up in this very confusing place. When we first started, I never thought I was going to be an author full-time. We had, again, so many bad choices. We had been living internationally in Bangkok, making no money. I had started publishing over there and sort of found surprising success, and then we transitioned back to the States because her dad got sick, and it was like, well, it's either going to be books or hobo, so I guess we're going to have to make this book thing work. And we kind of doubled down on that for a little while, and she ended up going full-time in the business, taking over the business side of things, doing the marketing and the ad campaigns and the taxes and all of that, which allowed me to increase production as a writer. And then it was only in the span of about 6 or 7 months that we were like, oh my God, suddenly we're really good at this. How did we get so good at this? Sort of accidental experts. And we had a number of friends that we had been working with for years, just as writers and friends, who are terrific authors and terrible publishers, really, really bad at doing it, just had no idea. And we thought, well, we're really good at this, and we like helping people, so maybe we can just like help you. And so we just kind of picked up these stragglers along the way and started making more and more and more money. And we're like, oh my God, this is a thing we could do. And now we're in this place where we have all of these authors, and several of them have gone completely full-time. We have a bunch of different IPs, a whole slew of different universes, multiple genres, and it's really, I never would have predicted that this would have been the outcome for us.
So LMBPN was always set up to become a publishing company. In the first year, we had one author, myself. And what pushed us to move forward were the fan requests for more stories than I was even remotely willing to write. And so it became obvious at that point that the original intention of moving the company forward, it was time to do it. And I'm just going to ask a quick one. Kevin, do you mind going out there? Because they were asking for a nurse. You taken care of. Okay, never mind. Back to the original scheduled program. So that was it. It was the fans that were pushing us to move forward, and we had already had plans to do it. We were just waiting for the time.
I would say for my part, two individuals really got me here. The first was Mark Wandry, who created the Four Horsemen universe, and I saw a lot of potential in it and invested wholeheartedly in it. You know, became one of the co-creators. And it really exploded. And then the second person would be my wife, Sheila, who last March said, you know, I'd kind of like to have you be around a little bit longer. So this working a day job and then working a night job as well, where you're putting in, you know, at least as many hours at night as you are in the day, probably not the best for you. Why don't you get rid of that nice, comfy government service job that you're never going to get fired from and will always have a salary, and invest in us to go out on our own and take risk after risk after risk. So she said,
You're not selling this too well.
Yeah, she's like, you know, I know which one you're going to choose, and I'm all for it. And that's really the impetus of, okay, we're going to go for it.
That was Chris Kennedy, the man who sucks at trying to suggest how to create an author empire.
The next question is, as you've transitioned from being the lone stranger in your own universe to having people, what is your leadership philosophy?
My leadership philosophy is that we are grown folks. We are full-grown adults, and we will talk about what we want to do, our goals. If your goals don't align, no harm, no foul, because everybody's mountain is different, and what they want out of it will be different. Clear communication, and then letting them do what they do the best. Just letting them go ahead and be adults and bring something back, and then be able to discuss how this fits into the overall aim of what we're doing. Just good communication, basically.
You know, I think we've had a lot of success because we've scaled up slowly. That was something that we noticed very early on, is that a lot of small presses, that when they got started, they would scale up really, really quickly, and they'd bring on a ton of authors and a ton of IPs and a ton of books, and then they would flounder because they didn't have enough manpower or enough bandwidth to deal with all of that. So one of the things right off was we said, no, we're going to scale up slowly, and we're only going to bring on new projects once we have at least a couple of projects that earn out and start paying for those additional projects. And we can bring on those new editors and those new cover artists. And so that was one of our first key decisions, was we need to do this slowly. We need to do this very intentionally. We need to make sure that we never overextend ourselves and that we can always handle whatever authors we bring on so that we can be responsible and do justice by the people that we work with. The other thing that I think has been a huge success for us was we established sort of a core vision for what we wanted to do, because there's always so many good opportunities that come up. And they can pull you in a million different directions unless you know exactly what your vision and exactly what your core values are. And then you can use that as a lens to sort of filter out all the other noise that comes through. And you can say, yep, that's going to help us achieve our aim, or nope, that's not going to help us achieve our aim. We need to move on and do something else. When we were building our team, we were very, very conscientious about who we took on. We have a really small team, and a big part of that is because we were looking for people that were in it for the long haul. We didn't want people that wanted to do one book. We wanted people that wanted to be authors for life. And then when we started to find those people, we said, hey, we have 4 rules, and we never break these rules. Number 1, if you want to work with us, you can't be an asshole. Number 2, you have to be coachable. Number 3, you have to write fast. Number 4, you have to hit deadlines. And those were sort of the things that we focused on when we were looking for who we wanted to work with, and that has proved to be tremendously valuable. And then I think also Jeanette and I differentiating our roles and saying, hey, this is your lane, this is my lane, and really sort of breaking down those responsibilities has helped us to be efficient and not to constantly do work more than once that we don't need to. So those have all been really helpful tools in leadership for us.
Okay, this sucks to follow that. We decided to go fast. But, and so I really actually would have encouraged James and everyone else that does go slow. Follow those rules. Those are all things that we learned a lot in the process. But just one of the other things that we do is we're always out looking for the best of our authors. And so if they actually, let's pretend that we're in the 4 rules here. If we look at that and the people aren't hitting it, we have to have an honest discussion with them and go, okay, you're not hitting this. You know, there are legal agreements, and because the law is the way it is, we have to have these discussions, which can be a little tense at times. But before we get into that discussion, understand we want what's best for you. And so if what's best for you is to step out of this, then we will dissolve the contract and we'll move on, and we'll, you know, no harm, no foul. We want you to be able to sleep at night. If you want to stay in this, we can redo this one time, and what is it going to take to accomplish this to make sure it's what you want? And so just moving forward with that, you know, from the author to the empire, that there, you will be getting into the legal stuff, which if you want to know anything about that, I suggest asking Judith, because it was anathema to me. So I've had to learn along with it. And so upsetting your legal representation of the company that you live with is not the best solution in the world, I think. But anyway, just really be aware of what's going on there and set those precepts up early. Go slower, not faster. We just happen to have the income to be able to pay for the mistakes we made doing it.
Real quick. Because Jeanette and I stalked Michael and Judith for a long time. And we hunted them down in Boston. This was several years ago, and we found out they were going to be there because we had come to 20 Books and we'd never been able to talk to Michael. So we're like, we're going to find that son of a bitch when he's alone, and we're going to corner him, and we're going to get all of our questions answered. And so a lot of the rules are thanks to Michael and Judith, because they told us, hey, these are the mistakes that we made coming up, and we said, okay, we're not going to do that, and that's really helped us a lot. So I mean, we really owe these guys a lot.
You can make the check out to Michael Anderle.
And I was a naval aviator for 20 years, and my leadership style is one of coach. And it's something I'm very comfortable at. And we follow a lot of the same things that James does. But some of our core sort of principles are, I like to let the authors, do what they do best, and take the direction that they want to go, and then we kind of figure ways to tie that into what we're already doing, so that the synergy of the sum of the parts being not as good as the whole, or however that goes, so that I think has been very important. We also do training a couple times during the week, just to keep helping the authors grow as authors. The better they get, the easier it is on the editors. They write better stories, and we all win together.
And just to continue moving the empire forward, we're actually speaking with Chrishaun and learning from her and how she's building her empire and seeing what are those things that we can do and we can pull into LMBPN.
And to add to
Close
that,
your mouth.
Sorry. And to add to that, can you guys hear me when I do this? Okay, great. To add to that, a lot of the things I've learned in shaping and going smaller with my empire, more concentrated, was being next to my brother and sister-in-law and just kind of watching them, like, how is this working? And Michael told me, don't do that. When you do this, don't do that. And so I learned a lot of things watching a lot of mistakes happening and being able to avoid them.
That's a very backhanded compliment.
Oh, yes. Oh, Bill hasn't sent it to you? I'll make... oh, okay. Oh, I thought you took PayPal. That was the problem.
Being on Michael's team, I would describe his leadership style a little bit different. The
confess all. Here it comes.
what he does is he sets the expectation, he leads by example, and he surrounds himself with good people.
Yes, you're the best boy, Craig.
But then holds you accountable for those expectations. When you're supposed to deliver a book, deliver that book. If you can get it early, great. And have those conversations during the process. And this is one thing, I can't imagine how many minutes a week do you spend on the phone or Skype? Hundreds and hundreds. You call me every week and we talk for, hey, I'll get you for 5 minutes. An hour later, you're rushing into Whack-A-Burger or something like that. I don't know.
Whataburger.
What a burger. That's right. It's Texas.
I actually call Craig only when I'm like going to lunch and shit. So I'll be like, hey man, I got 10 minutes as I walk over to New York. You got time to talk? Good. Let's talk. And otherwise, actually, because I schedule meetings with other people, but not him or Martha.
Yeah, and we rarely talk books. It's we tell ass jokes. From your empire, okay, that's me. In the empire, what is your investment strategy now that you're at this position? You're at the CEO of a company. What is your investment strategy?
Okay, that's multi-layered. You mean investing in new products?
Financial.
Financial?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, here's my TED Talk on doing that. Yes, the first thing I did was establish 401ks and figured out who were my contractors and who were my employees. I actually have 2 full-time employees who I actually pay a salary to. And I make sure that they get 401k, health insurance, workers' comp, and things like that. And then they spend a lot of time dealing with my bullshit, just so you know. And then from there, we have our contractors. And then the CKH Group is its own entity with its own credit cards, its own savings accounts, its own entity to generate its own income. It does that separately than Chrishaun Keller-Hanna, who does ideas, builds them, and see if they're viable. If they're viable, then CKH Group takes it over and invests. And so when you say how do we do that financially, there's a lot of different ways, but the first thing, you always make sure you take care of your people, you pay on time, you pay fairly, don't do anything exposure or any kind of BS like that. From there, save your money, and then take care of your employees and take care of the people who are spending their time and life energy. They could be doing anything else, and they're spending it for your benefit. So that's where I start.
That's great. This is, again, a question that's probably better directed to Jeanette because she's the one that handles most of our financials. But we talk about it, and I have the rough overview of how this works. But we use a system called Profit First. It's a great book out there. If any of you are interested, I would recommend it even for your own personal publishing business. And it kind of breaks down the way that we distribute our funds. Or are you just, okay, she's setting. You should, actually. Can we? Hey, Betty, you want to answer? Because you're way better at this than I am.
How about now? Okay, yeah, so he's right that we use Profit First. It's a system that we've been using for a couple of years now. And it basically takes you through how to look at your expenses, and then based on what your gross revenue is, what percentages you should be putting into different spots. So, for example, we have an operating account, we have our owner's compensation account, we have a profit account and a tax account, and you can have more than that. But our contractors get paid first, that comes off the top, and then we run basically all of our money through this system where everything goes by percentages, and it's worked out phenomenally well for us. So.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate the thing about paying first. So whenever we get the income coming in, one of the first things we do is just pay everybody that's owed. You know, we go through that part. I mean, LMBPN has been self-funded, so all of our growth has been coming out of our income every single month. And so we've been pushing that, but as we've finally attained a level playing field, like we're not going for 400 books next year. You know, we've pulled it down to a meager number of probably 300. So, but that's going to help us, and we do realize now what it takes financially to put that many books through the system. What does that look like from a cash flow analysis? Like, you know, if we start a book, let's say January 1st, and we know this book is coming out March 1st, well, that's 2 months of investment. And then it's going to go for 30 days of income, and then you're not getting it for another 60 days after that. So you're actually talking 5 months of spend and everything else before you're starting to recoup that money. You've become effectively, you become a stock itself, just an investment, coming back in, taking that money, returning it back to the beginning, doing it again, and then you start adding in the financial opportunity of licensing your IP, let's say to audio. And what does that mean to, you know, what you're accomplishing? So eventually, you know, this year we're going to be looking at doing some sort of larger loan situation so that I can actually keep some of this money. That would be really cool, I think. And so, you know, we're looking at it just from a financial standpoint of what it takes, the time cost of money. So let's pretend, once again, that the book costs $5,000 to do, and it takes 5 months before you're going to get any money back. Well, we can either fund the whole $5,000 and pay no interest, or if you're talking about even on a credit card loan, you might be talking $50 or $100 or something, and then let somebody else fund that thing. And since we have a really good handle on the income that we receive from our books, we understand what it is that's going to come out of my portion, but not my bank account, if that makes sense? Okay, so that's one of the things that we're really looking at doing as we grow and continue to grow and invest in the company, invest in the opportunities that are ahead of us.
I don't remember which corporation it was, but you know, one of the companies said, "We got people," and that's finally what I grew to in about the past year. You know, I'm trying to manage all of these different things, you know, between finances and authors and covers and editing and all of that, because I'm pretty much a one-man shop. That ultimately the finances were starting to take up too much of my time. So I hired a business manager and finance manager to run those sorts of things, and incorporated so that, you know, now she handles the part with taxes and all of that to make sure that at the end of the year there's money to pay the taxes, that we pay them as we go. You know, in the list of what is the worst thing I ever did, at one point in the journey I had 2 houses because we moved from one place to another, and I was having to burn through a lot of my savings to pay for the house that we weren't living in anymore. And at the end of the year, I had a 5-digit tax bill that I had to come out, you know, with. And that is something that I would not wish on anyone here. You know, Amazon pays, but they don't take out the tax. So if you're not saving it, at the end of the year, it's going to be a bad thing. And so now I've got that under control. I don't have to worry about that. The business manager also points out opportunities where we can move in different ways, in addition to, you know, what I do as well. And that helps with the finances both now, at the end of the year, and then moving forward into the future.
I'm going to ask Judith to step up real quick because I can't. And Brent is the name of our CPA. He's here in Vegas. I think they can, they take clients all the way around the world. But Judith, what is the name of his name and his company's name in case somebody would like to know?
Yeah, it's BDH Associates, and then we'll provide you with the website in case you're interested. I'm not sure the size of business they're looking into. So in other words,
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do a CPA of Brent's caliber, you're going to want to have enough problems to have.
Right, you want to qualify that,
Yeah.
but
But we are talking empires. So if you'd like to actually start creating a relationship, even say, hey, I'm not ready yet, but I'd like to know a little bit about it.
Well,
we told Brent in the beginning,
Yeah.
People might be coming to him because of this event.
Yeah, I would suggest you don't tell him you're ready, right? He just needs to assess your business and guide you. And he might even say, I can put you in contact with our subsidiary or whatever, but you're ready. It's just a matter of them servicing you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. As soon as you start establishing your LLC and everything, find a CPA. They are worth their weight in chicken McNuggets. I have saved, no, seriously, the $2,000 I spent, no, the $2,000 I spent has saved me nearly $20,000 because they go and comb through everything. They tell you what you don't know and what you didn't know that you needed to know. They can walk you through how you frame your expenses and how to think about how you want to spend your money the next year. One of the first people you should employ is a CPA, and then a business manager after that.
Certainly. I'm taking it after you.
Okay. Not only that, but they can help you grow smart. To figure out, okay, we've got these authors. Now we want to bring somebody else on board to pay. How do we do that smart? How do we pay them the best way? How do we provide them those sorts of benefits that they need, where they are safe and secure and can focus on doing the things that they should for your business, without having to worry about, oh my gosh, my little kid has sniffles and I can't afford to take him to the doctor.
One short story was right before we headed to New York last week, our CPA brought up on his big screen TV, this is what you did last year, this is what you did this year, here's the questions that we're seeing that you're different year over year, what's the problem, are you not showing us something? And one of them was an entertainment expense. And they're like, you're really down. I said, no, don't worry about it, 20Books is next week, it'll go back up.
Just real quick, because we were talking about finances, but in terms of how you distribute your resources, as you scale up, you need to find people to help you. This is one of the big things that we learned and have been focusing on hard this year, is realizing that you can't do everything, or it's absolutely going to cut into your production, and it's untenable. So you need to find people that are competent and that you trust and that you can develop relationships with, that are going to coach you and that are going to have strengths that are not your own. That was also one of the things that you guys, we would call Michael and we'd be like, hey, is there what do you guys do with this? He's like, I don't know, I have a person for that. And we're like, well, damn it, we need a person for that. And so we started. So we started saying, okay, let's break out what jobs we actually do, and then let's find the people that we can outsource portions of those jobs to, and that has absolutely changed the game for us.
One more thing. Do not, there's a lot more. Do not be afraid of that initial sticker shock for hiring people who are good at what they do. You just heard me mention that I paid $2,000 to get my taxes done. My husband fainted when he saw that bill, because that's a lot of money. But the expertise that you're paying for not only for expertise, but for not wasting your time failing at it and costing yourself more money, time, frustration doing those things. It doesn't have to be $2,000. It can be less, but do not scoff just because the price is high. You will make more money because of that.
All right. If we have time for a few questions. If you could line up over here. And in between, you have 10 seconds each. What is your bottom line growth projection for your company for 2020? Bottom line. You made $100,000 this year. You want to make $120,000 next year.
We'll do about a little over 3 this year, hoping to go to 4 next year.
Okay, so 33% growth. What about margin? Is that with a similar margin, or are you willing to pay a little bit more?
No, that's similar margin.
Okay, good.
This year we did 750,000. We're hoping, and I think that we'll hit 1.2 next year. So we're hoping to have our first big 7-figure year for us, and with similar margins as well. Our audio expenses might go up a little bit. So we'll kind of see. We spent a lot in audio this year, so we're hoping to earn some of that back. But other than that, I think our expenses will stay more or less the same.
Nice.
Across everything that I'm doing, this year we just struck at about $500,000, and the goal is to drop our profit margin by at least 30% with the enamel pins and the manufacturing that we're doing, and then we're hoping to double our net profit next year.
Nice. Good plan. Good strategery.
We'll be just shy of $500,000 this year. Looking to hit $1 million next year.
Well done. Stay close to the microphone.
Good morning. Thank you so much for this presentation. Mike Michaelis' book is great, Profit First. I use that. My wife and I use that. She has her own business too. But I want to say thank you again for this conference. Quick question, very technical, I guess more the technical aspect about contracting, setting up contracts with your authors. How do you set that up, or what guidance would you give to set up contracts with authors?
For my response, turn around, look at the lady right behind you.
Okay.
Oh, that's my same answer too.
Okay.
But I will say that before word one gets writ, make sure that contract is straight, that you have clear about the royalties you're going to be spending, how many books, how long the books, milestones, what happens if their life tends to go and take a dump on them, all those things. Have honest conversations and put those in writing before you write word one. It will save you time and energy.
If you're looking for contracts, there's a number of good sources. SIFWA has a whole bunch of sort of templated contracts that you can look at. They're not going to perfectly fit what you need, but you can tweak them. So that's Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, SIFWA. They have a lot of really good resources that you can look into. To mimic what she said, before you do anything, before you talk with an author about collaborating, make sure that there's some kind of collaboration agreement in place so that you know, hey, if this falls through, who gets to do what with the story, who gets the IP, how does all of that stuff work? And I would also say make sure that you pay attention how the termination clauses work. You don't want to get stuck with someone who's not performing, or you know, if something happens to you, if your business goes bankrupt, I mean, God forbid, I think that it's important for the authors to be able to retain and get their IPs back so they can do something else with them. So those are some of the finer points that we found to be really crucial.
Walk over here, and right next to my bag is a book called Collaborations. It has 5 sample contracts in the back. Okay. Go grab one.
Okay. And that was what I was going to say. You know, find a good template from a legitimate source like SIFWA or something legitimate, and then adapt it to, you know, what you need.
Me
it
deep,
to be.
man. You're not on a panel next year.
You're supposed to be pushing his book, man.
Oh yeah. And that book is really great.
She's on the panel. Sheila's on the panel next year, not you. Yes, next question, please.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I'm not sure if I need to be talking to her or to you. So, Chrishaun, you had mentioned working with adults.
Yes, I like working with adults.
What if you find that you are actually working with someone who is pretending to be an adult, and you find them to be immature, and then the thing blows up? How do you prevent them trying to basically ruin you on social media? Is that a contract thing, or how does that go? Because I've been in worlds like this, and I've watched everything blow up, and I've seen people's careers disappear. So.
All right, then. I'm going to take these by bullet points. Number one, I deal with folks who who are fans and patriots of the genre I write. I write Monster Hunter. That's a niche. And if you're not into it, I'm probably not talking to you in the first place. And if I am talking to you, I've read something that you've done and I've liked it. And then if I'm offering you a contract and we have problems with the contract, then there's a lot of ways we filter out those people. And then while we're going through, you don't question your edits. There are several things you have to line up with. All right.
Okay.
I've also built my my business in such a way that books are one part. My merchandising is another part. There is, if something dips in one way, I have something else that covers it. Right. Number 3, I don't really give a fuck about what you say on me on social media, because you are not buying my books. Right? The folks who are sitting up there and hating or making things difficult or yelling about you and causing drama, they're over there. My audience is over here. That's what I'm paying attention to. And sorry it didn't work out, but I can't have you anymore. We've terminated it. It's done. Tell it walking. And it's all about you not worrying about that and pushing on to what you're doing, because your goal is over there, hate is over here.
Okay.
That's good. Just to add, our number 1 rule: don't be an asshole. That is the most important rule, and it goes both ways. We try to treat everybody that we work with respect, and I think that we have had relationships that have fallen out. But if you're respectful and you're kind and you have open communications all the way through, that will help mitigate a lot of that fallout. We always do a face-to-face interview before we work with anybody, so that we can really assess, like, hey, is this someone that we could work with long-term, or are they going to bring a lot of drama into our life? Because even if they're really talented, if they bring a lot of drama, it ain't going to be worth it. The last thing is contracts. We have non-disclosure agreements with the folks that we work with, and we also have collaboration agreements before we start any projects, so we know exactly how things iron out. So that way, if there is ever a fallout in the relationship, we can say, hey, no, we're on the up and up. We've gone through the process. We onboarded you correctly. We dealt with the termination clauses. I mean, we played it as straight with you as we could, and we did it respectfully. So that's helped us a lot.
All right. Next question, please.
Hi. First of all, thank you very much for your generosity in sharing all that and for being so inspiring. In fact, you were so inspiring that last year I was a trad pub author, and I started being an indie in summer 2018. By December, I work in the French market, but by December I had released 3 books. I was making 5 figures. So I was very happy. Yeah. And of course, what did I do? I started to hire writers. I hired editors. I hired social media managers. And we went big, right? 10 months now, I have 1 part-time editor, and it's just me as a scared mouse in my corner and thinking, okay, so I'm still doing very well, and I've recouped the money that I lost, and I paid everybody and everything. But I realized that what had happened is that I went so fast and so big that the creative person in me, the sensitive author who really is at the core of everything we do, froze and got very scared, very, very scared. I'm feeling much better now after 3 days in Vegas, but basically my question to you is, how do you protect your beautiful, precious artist who started all this?
That's a great question, and I've found myself in that spot a couple times. And what I do is every morning I write. The mornings are for writing. I cut that time out in the morning to do what I do. In the afternoon, that's when I'll schedule meetings, do editing, any of the other business stuff. But I always keep the mornings for me.
Get rid of the assholes.
I actually talked with Chris, and he told me his strategy because I was going through the same thing, and I did the same thing. I've carved out the mornings. Writing is the single most important thing I can do for my business, and so I make sure that comes first every single day, so that no matter what else happens, I've hit my word count goals, and I feel confident going through. And so that was a big change for me.
I was in the same place a year ago, literally. And what I did was I, once again, narrowed down, this is what I'm doing. I'm always going to be writing monsters. That's what I'm going to be known for. And I write 2 hours every day. Another thing I did was I started illustrating again. Another creative pursuit, which also gives me income, but with the market difference of a shorter turnaround period. From thought to finished pen is 6 weeks. From thought to finished illustration is an hour. Each one of those is a finish. And when you get more finishes, you get more confidence. Yes. And when you get more confidence, your creativity grows stronger. And what kills us a lot in writing is that the beginning to the end is so long, or we spend so much energy getting those 10,000 word days in to finish. So breaking that up with smaller things you can finish always helps.
Also, you know, which contract of all of your people pays you the most percentage, the highest percentage? The one with you.
Yes.
So paying yourself first
Yes.
isn't a bad thing either.
Thank you very much.
I'm putting them on the stage next year. Last question. Last question.
Michael, I think you got to this a little bit, but do any of you use leverage or financing to grow? And at what point did you make that decision that, you know, borrowing the money was worth the payoff?
I looked at it heavily about 18 months ago. The problem was that because until my wife forced me to get a CPA and get those books under and everything else, I mean, we had such an interesting time. Yeah, yes, in the Chinese sense. Acquiring the condo here, whenever they were wanting our income from Amazon, and they're scratching their heads. Why does Amazon keep sending you these large amounts of money? We don't trust this. I swore off doing anything with any bank that required documents. And until we had the CPA due, which they just finished our second year of stuff, you know, I wouldn't go to the bank because they wouldn't pass a certain amount. They wanted all this documentation. So I looked at it 18 months ago. We've been spending 18 months to get all of the paperwork done to make sure that whenever I give it to them, I don't have to answer a lot of annoying questions. So that's why we've been doing it more. But only recently, in the last 3 weeks, maybe, Judith, you know, I took a small loan to start the process of doing it. Otherwise, we've been self-funding, and it sucks horribly.
I'm self-funded.
We self-fund, and we only scale up when we have projects that earn out and create additional funding that opens up for us to invest in new projects, and that's part of the slow and steady for us is we always reinvest in our business because that's the best return we can get, but we're cautious with it because we know that if we go too hard too fast that we're going to end up not having enough money to pay through all of these things that we've committed to.
Yeah, it is. I do self-fund, but I did invest in a small loan for personal debt consolidation to make sure all my bills are going in the right direction. And I didn't have to worry about all these small little bills that you have to chase after, which adds to more your frustration when you're trying to run a business. So I did do that on one end, but I also paid that off within 2 years and making sure that I'm as debt-free and self-funded as possible. So if you're thinking about that, think about that in terms of something that will help you to proceed closer to being debt-free and then solvent, not as an income stream. Because until you have a large buffer, or at least, I would say at least like a year behind you, I wouldn't recommend that for income generation because you don't know if you're going to be able to pay it, which only makes the problem worse.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Go slow to go fast. Authors to empires. Thank you.